Hey, welcome into the After Party, the weekly coaches show following Friday night tailgate party. After 13 games, just 2 teams in Southeast Texas remain in the UIL Texas High School football playoffs, and I'm talking Port Neches-Groves High School and the Woodville Eagles. Now, you may be thinking to yourself, Kierstin, this is the coaches show. Where are your coaches? Well, you're going to hear from both of them in just a moment. We're going to start this episode off talking all things PNG. Now, PNG will be taking on the South Oak Cliff Bears in the quarterfinal matchup. Here's a look at that matchup on paper. They're going to play this game at Stephen F. Austin, but you can see one of South Oak Cliff's wins this season came from a Week 9 forfeit. So do with that information what you will. These opponents pretty evenly matched on paper. Now, last time out for the Indians proved to be quite a battle, all coming down to a second half rally and a blocked field goal in the final 2 minutes. Here's Jeff Joseph with his thoughts on that performance.
It's so happy for our guys, man. They have a ton of heart. They fought like crazy the whole game. We did a good job making plays when we had to on defense, man. That's a really, really good football team, a really well-coached football team that we found a way to win at the end of the day, and that's what matters. Get to play another round of the playoffs, get to play together for another week. Mason tells us all the time about how he played quarterback at Groves Middle School and his prowess throwing the football. And he's a talented athlete, man, and that's a great call by our officer coaches, man. Coach Jizzy called it at the right time, and Len got open and made the catch, and we were able to score. Yeah, I don't know about dominate, but our guys played hard, and you take some big punches from those guys, and they're very talented, very well coached, they had great schemes. And we took some punches, and you're proud of your guys when they keep fighting like they did, and not backing down and maintaining a mentality where we got to go attack things, and that's what they were able to do in the second half. And we made a huge stop there late in the game, and we were able to block a kick to get our offense the ball back.
Switching gears, Woodville Eagles coming off of a dominant performance. We got Ty Robinson remoted in from Woodville. You're obviously in the office ready to work, but just how does it feel making it to this point?
Really not worried about that at all. Could honestly care less. Like, to be 100% honest, so we had finished the game the other night, and we never in my wildest dreams I thought we could win. To beat them in the way that we did, was a surprise. But before I'd walked to the 50-yard line, the Daingerfield coach had already texted me, and on our way off the field, we're setting up venue, officials. So, I mean, there was no time to enjoy that game. And I think a big part of what contributed to the game last Friday was DCAB was kind of the same situation that we were. This is the first time in 20 years they had been past the second round of the playoffs. And what you have to be careful with this time of year, especially, when you're kind of in uncharted territory as far as success-wise at a particular school. You can't rest on your laurels. You can't pat yourself on the back. You can't start listening to all the good stuff that everybody's saying, because as soon as you start feeling comfortable, as soon as you start feeling content, then you're going to get beat the next week. So like there's no time for that. We'll enjoy all of it when the season's over with, but we definitely have our hands full with Daingerfield. And before we'd even gotten off the field, it was all hands on deck, getting ready for the next week.
Last time out was really just a masterclass, I think, in mental and physical toughness in a way that I think was unique this time around, something we haven't really seen from the Woodville Eagles. Talk to me, what was the difference this past week?
We were locked in, ready to go. We had a great week of preparation last week. Again, I think, getting out of the second round, that was something I was somewhat concerned with. It was a great scene. It was a great environment after we had won the Grand Saline game with the whole community out on the field. And, so it was like, okay, we can't let this be this was not the goal of the season, was just to win this game. And to our kids and our coaches' credit, they really locked in and they were really focused last week, and we had a great week of practice. Even, when there was no school, everybody else was on Thanksgiving break, and our kids were coming up. They were up here at 9 o'clock, and we were grinding until noon every day. So I think that was it. Was just our preparation, and we were locked in, and from start to finish, we dominated every phase of the game, and you were right. We were just we were more physical than them, and it showed. And and
I
and
think
and, that, and they were a great team. They were a great team. They were. I think they wound up 11-2, and their only loss on the year prior to our game was Jefferson, which got knocked out in Division One in a close game to Malakoff, who were the defending state champs, and they had only lost to Jefferson by a touchdown. And they were a great team, but we were ready for that moment.
you guys won the turnover battle, forced them to punt on numerous occasions. Your defense really just applying pressure to that pocket. Talk to me a little bit about your defenders.
I mean, it starts up front. I mean, it was again, you play defense; it's a team effort, and the whole game. It was a complete game, offense, defense, kicking game. That's one thing we've really emphasized here in the last 6 weeks or so is team, capital TEAM, not worrying about who's getting the credit. But back to the defensive performance, it starts with our defensive line, and then just a player who's been dominant all year is our strong end Tavion Hunter, and just right out of the get-go, he was on that quarterback quick, and they had a very dynamic, very explosive quarterback that had the ability to extend plays, and we were really on him before he could do anything. And the rest of the defensive line, you have Big Dwayne Koenig, who is just a big explosive body up front. Then we have a fire plug with Ladarian Calhoun's the other defensive tackle. And then a player who's really come along this year is our quick end, Aston Daly. He's a long kid. I believe, I don't remember, I think Tavion, I believe he had 4 or 5 sacks. And then Aston had 3 or 4, and I think Ladarian had got in there for a while too. And then our linebackers, Jathan Traylor, senior's been a 3-year starter for us. Jacob Hyder, and then Marquise Menifee, and then our secondary with Savon Bolden. Really, he's had 2 great games in a row. James Kelly, um, Caleb Johnson, and then Adelius Williams rounding out the secondary. Those guys have just played great all year. Really showed on Friday.
You have a lot of big guys on your roster, too. I'm talking just built to bulldoze through any opponent that stands in their way. But not only do they have that kind of build, but they're also really fast. Talk to me about how important it is to have those guys able to make those big plays when you guys need it most.
Well, kind of with the offensive line, though, I mean, just be real honest, they're not the biggest guys in the world. I think the biggest one of them maybe goes 220 pounds. I mean, they're not small by any stretch, but what they lack with size, they make up for it with heart and physicality. I mean, like they're not the biggest guys in the world now. They're strong. They work their butt off. They've been again. There's 5 seniors there, and they have they have really committed to the weight room over the last 6 years, and I think they can all squat near or over 500 pounds. They work hard, and they're just tough and physical, and not the biggest guys in the world, but they're gonna put their face on you, and it's gonna be a dogfight. And again, they've done it really, really 2 weeks in a row. They've opened stuff up for our backs, and then when you have a 240-pound running back like Dustin Barlow, uh, he's a big physical runner, and then we can complement him with Zayon, and then Luke Babbitt, even our quarterback, and he's carried the ball some here recently. And they just complement. I don't want to sound saying the same thing every week, but they just complement each other. And when we were and it opened up some things in the passing game. I believe we had 170 yards passing this past week too.
13 games in, aside from maybe some small bumps and bruises, are you guys healthy for the most part?
Again, and that's the key. That's the key to long playoff runs. It's longevity, and who's the healthiest team come the night that you play. I think that goes a lot to this time of year. You got to be smart in how you practice. You don't need to be on the field a long time. You don't need to bang on each other. But again, I think one factor that's contributed to us being able to stay healthy, knock on wood, has been our dedication to the weight room. I mean, we lift heavy. I mean, 3 weeks ago we were squatting, at or near 90% of our maxes. Commit to the weight room. You add muscle, and that just that's going to help mitigate injury. And that was one thing we had talked about when we started two-a-days this year was like, hey, we're gonna really commit to doing things right in the weight room throughout the season, and we marked it out. And so now, we started, what was it, August 1st or something, and we're 13 weeks, two scrimmages, 15. So we're 16 weeks into the season right now, and we were like, look, if you go to play a state championship, you got 19 weeks. How much stronger can we get if we dedicate ourselves in 19 weeks, as opposed to, okay, if some people don't go in the weight room, period, and then if you just kind of go in there to do something, as far as maintenance, we don't want to maintain. We want to try to get stronger throughout the season, and I think that's been something that's been really, really important for us, been big for us this year.
I know Daingerfield's record is 8-5 overall, but they're a tough team.
That record means nothing.
I mean, it's tough to beat tradition. What are you anticipating from that squad?
They remind me a lot of the Hitchcock team that we played a couple of years ago in the playoffs. They have tremendous speed and athleticism across the field. They'll be the biggest team that we've seen. I mean, they have some dudes, and their head coach does a great job. Their head coach Dalvin Nelson was on staff whenever I took this job over 9 years ago. Really wanted him to stay, but he had gone up to Daingerfield as a defensive coordinator. One of his assistant coaches I coached here in Woodville, Chris Traylor, his little brother is our starting middle linebacker. So we've got some familiarity with those guys up there, and they do a great job. And the thing with Daingerfield, they really, and the reason you have to ignore their record is if you look at the history of their program. We talked about last week, West Orange, Stark, PNG, Newton, and just the great tradition that you have in this area. I mean, honestly, Daingerfield probably trumps anybody in our area if you look at the number of state championships that they've won. The best high school football team in the history of the state of Texas was the 1983 Daingerfield team. I think they gave up 13 points in 16 games. So to that community, to that school, football season really doesn't begin until round one of the playoffs, and that's when they get serious. And then just seeing, and we all know Newton and the tradition and how good of a team that they have, and Newton certainly didn't play their best game on last Friday, but to be completely beaten the way they were by Daingerfield, it's gonna be a tall order. But anybody looking at the record, don't look at the record or you're going to get embarrassed. You better be ready to play. And they're physical. They have a lot of pride, and it's going to be a big mountain to climb. But we've stepped up and met every challenge so far this year. We're certainly not going to back down.
I was going to ask you about that internal rivalry. Senior Jathan Traylor has a brother who is an assistant on Daingerfield's team. So that's a house divided. Have you talked with him, and maybe this is more applicable to all of your players, about how to keep the emotions at bay, especially, when you think about this being the very first time you guys have made it to the fourth round, and other things like that?
You just can't let it affect your preparation. And I think people make too big of a deal about stuff like that and the emotion in the game, because once the game's kicked off, you're just playing football at that point. And like everything that really happened up to that point doesn't matter other than your preparation and then how you execute your plan. So I don't think that's going to be a factor at all. I mean, it's just going to be who shows up and, who has the best week of preparation this week, and who wants to be the physical, the most physical football team.
Well, best of luck to you as well as the Port Neches-Groves Indians. That's all from me at the sports desk, and we will catch you with all of your playoff action coming this Friday.